Hi, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about some games that have been shut down this year, mainly because there has been quite a few games shutting down or having parts of the online play shut down, including old single player games and so on. But we'll be talking a little bit about that in this video, along with why petitions actually kinda can matter, why they can be used, and so on. So let's get into it. So to start off our little death match here, why don't we go over some of the games that have already been shut down this year? Anthem, Warlander, The Sims Mobile, NBA Live 19, Outlaw, Project Cars 3, Puppet Master the Game, Super Rift, Armored of Doom, Football Club Manager 26 Live, Palace of Unrest, Dream Remains, Oracle Classic, Practicum VR, Chronicles of the Celestial Way, Highguard, King Arthur Legend Rise, Occupy White Walls, The Finals, The Last Player VR Battle Royale, Made Beaver, PUBG Blindspot, World Boss, Escape Point, My Town Desert Slice, Elder Guard, VBSCE Baseball Power Pros, WWE 2K24 Online Services, Zombie Army, VR Co-op Servers, Black Stigma, Rift Investigation, Frenzy, Genshin Impact PS4 specifically, King of Meat, Grand Blue Fantasies vs. Online Services, Pandemic Express, Totsikumi the Divine Hunter, R2 Beat, Dragon Age Inquisition Online Services, Plan vs. Zombies Garden Warfare PS3, Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt, Dragon Arena Raid 1 vs 5 Online Boss Battles, Wildcade in China, Warhammer 40k Warforge, Bobkosh, Aruno, Online Tombstone, Online The Cube, Safers, not to be confused with The Cube, the game that's coming out, Villager Heroes. Of course, this is relevant to the current discussion with Destiny, because Destiny is also looking like a game that might end up in a not too good spot. After all, it is ending support, and while we are getting one final big update and Bungie have actually kept Destiny 1 servers live, it's not like that game is super playable for everybody. You see, Destiny 1 also has some issues at the moment where you might get beaver when loading into the tower, and if that is you, then you know as well as I do, it is basically impossible to play once you encounter that issue, as every single time you will load into the tower from henceforward, you will instantly get sent back into orbit. It sucks, it really genuinely sucks, but technically speaking, the game is playable. That is not the only thing. There are also games that have been announced that are being shut down doing or beyond 2026. There we have games like Record Room, Spellcaster's Chronicle, Battlefield Hardline, The Elder Scrolls Blades, New World, NBA 2K25, and Top Spin 2K25. Those are just some of the games that are being shut down this year or slightly into 2027. It is genuinely a really bad situation for a lot of us. And while Jason Schreier made a YouTube channel where he has this video talking about development costs specifically in relation to Destiny 3, saying that it will roughly cost $500 million to make, I have to counter to say I don't really mind either way. But as an online gamer, somebody who plays this game online, right, they end up being more than just a game. They end up being your hangout space, the third space that you come to with your friends, a place where you might meet your friends, maybe even your life partner. It is such an experience to be a part of an online community, and it sucks for the people who get that ripped away from them. Very much like I said with Anthem. I don't think this should happen to any game, regardless of what happens with it. Even if that means that the servers get to fall into disrepair and it's just impossible to play, even though it's technically still live and some people can play it, I still don't think it's a good position to be in. I think it genuinely really sucks. And unfortunately, it happens quite often, as you can see, and that is because we have an increasingly competitive gaming market with a lot of really good titles that you can play, and a lot of not as good titles that are trying to compete for that spot as being the really good one. And unfortunately, you can't play multiple games at once, at least most of the time. And quite frankly, the people who would suck for the most is probably the developers who pour their heart and soul into some of these games. And like I said, these places become places that you aren't necessarily just playing a game in. They become a part of you. A space that you can go to relax after a long, hard day of work. A place that you can come to just wind down and not think too much and be in a different universe for a little bit. It really sucks to see them go, as they do, quite frankly, act like any bar or a club might for some people, or even just a mall, a place to hang out and just relax. It's a shame to see them go, and I really fucking hate the fact that they are going. And when it comes to a game like Destiny, where it's still technically live, but it's just on playable, it still sucks, right? It still sucks that there aren't new content being developed and so on, as it will undoubtedly mean that there are people who will jump away from the game, and that some of those connections that you might have forged within that game might be some that you never see again. And while that is only natural, that happens in real life too, it still doesn't make it any easier. It's also why I believe that we are seeing these stages of grief people are going through, where anger is one of them. Like, people get angry, they start out by grieving it and being really sad about it, and then they, start being angry, then they go through acceptance, which is where we got like things like the petition that is going around, which now is sitting at almost 300,000 signatures as of recording this, 290 matter of fact. It's where all of these are coming from. It's coming from a place of not wanting to just lay down and accept the reality of the situation, which is that Destiny 3 is wildly expensive, and unfortunately, it seems like Sony won't be greenlighting one, despite the fact that there are a lot of people who are pleading for it, who really badly want it. That being said, of course, there's the new game Marathon, and I think it's important when we're talking about this entire Destiny situation, we talk about Marathon, because there's a large amount of hate going around on Marathon, apparently. I'll be the first one to say, maybe it's me, I am not a Marathon player, and I'm gonna be careful for what I'm about to say. But man, as somebody who's played Destiny for as long as I have, being that I've been through the entirety of Destiny 2 with everybody and most of Destiny 1 as well, I don't feel like it has gotten nearly the same amount of scrutiny that Destiny has throughout the years. That being said, the amount of scrutiny on it right now is pretty high. There's a lot of people talking a lot of shit. And I'll be the first to say, Marathon isn't to blame for what is happening to Destiny. It is a kind of bad argument because, of course, what is going on is mismanagement at the top, where a lot of the people at the top are just making bad decisions, and it's leading the game down a bad path. And I think it can be said mostly the same thing for a lot of these games, where maybe there are some cool ideas and maybe there are some really cool aspects to some of them, but they kind of get buried underneath executives who would rather follow trends and try to play it safe rather than letting the developers who might actually have some really cool ideas just go and do those ideas. And ultimately, I think that's a lose-lose for everybody in the situation, because, quite frankly, developers tend to have some really fucking cool ideas. And when they get brought into life in a good way, when the developers get their way, it tends to turn out fairly well. I'm not saying that that is like that every time. I'm just saying that I believe it's like that most of the time. And those are the people who deserve the blame for all of the games, well, dying. And honestly, I think it sucks. I think a lot more games should be made with a single player component so you can play it by yourself, or you at least aren't required to log into the internet to play it. I'm okay with the fact that it has an internet connection, as long as the second that I go off that internet grid that I can still access the game. Because at the end of the day, firstly, some people just don't have any internet, but that game isn't gonna remain up there forever. And that sucks. That fucking sucks, and it's hard to accept, man. That being said, things like a petition, how much do they actually help? It's a really good question, and one that I of course can't directly answer, but I can say from other business experiences and from studying these sort of marketing things and analytics and all of that, I can say that a petition, at least in my experience and in all of the smart people that I talk to's experience, it would be a bullet point. It would be a bullet point on a PowerPoint that might be used in a pitch for a further game, that there are this many people who are that passionate about it. And that is not necessarily bad, because it's really, really solid data, which is something that I don't see a lot of people discussing. Yeah, it's not gonna bring a Destiny 3 immediately. Even if we reach 5 million signatures, it wouldn't mean the instantaneous release of a new game, but it might be used as a bargaining chip, so to speak, as something that you can write on a PowerPoint slide and be like, there are that many people who are interested in what we are doing right now, in this sort of thing. And that in and of itself isn't super bad data. Now, does a word like that in the games industry? I couldn't tell you even if I wanted to. The reality is I haven't worked within the games industry, but I have studied a lot of business over the years, and at this point, I feel like I can pretty much just say it like it is, which is that, yeah, this isn't gonna bring a Destiny 3, but it maybe it can be used as a bargaining chip for Bungie. A little pot that they can throw on a PowerPoint slide. And even if it doesn't do any of that, there's one benefit to something like this petition that is going around, and a benefit that I've seen a lot of games that have a bigger player base. It's that the community comes together. For the first time in a while, the community comes together, we band together. And it's nice to see a community that bands together. It's been a wild experience to be a part of these last few days because for a while we have been fragmented. And finally, we're making this one push back against the greed and the corporations. But that's also about what I have to say today. I hope that something happens with Destiny. I just don't want it to get iced, honestly. I think it's way too cool of an IP to have that fate. I have a link to it down in the description, the petition, if you want to sign up. Remember to join the server slam on June 9th. Let's make those player counts go up. And lastly, if you enjoyed, you can do the YouTube stuff. I promise you, next week, the Metro video, then it's out. And then there'll be a video out on June 9th, just reminding you that I'm going live and to go live and play. I'm gonna be streaming, probably over on Twitch, maybe over on YouTube, doing the final days of my favorite game, and I think it's important to just have fun with it, enjoy it. I hope you do that, and if you're gonna play Marathon Season 2, honestly, go for it, dude. I might honestly also check it out now that it has a free weekend. I do want to see what the PvE mode is like, but yeah, I think you should probably, give it a try if you are interested at the end of the day. It does have a free weekend coming, or like a free full week, I think it is, coming up from June 2nd to June 9th. So you can go directly from playing Marathon into playing Destiny if you get really into it. Personally, doubt it's gonna be my thing, but I've seen enough people shit talk it. I want to see for myself now. But all that being said, boys, girls, see you all in the next one. Bye.